Hey guys, still here and welcome back to Stormworks. It's episode 8, and in the previous episode I managed to crash my car. And that is unfortunate for two reasons. One, I lost the parts, and two, I don't have any of the parts that I only had a couple of in stock. And that means that with this vehicle, I lost the wheels. I didn't have any more wheels in stock. I just unlocked those as a sort of mission reward. So what I had to do was go into the research and spend a whole 10 points out of my original 12, which were going to go to the helicopters for the 15, so I was very close, and unlock the wheels. So I now have a bunch of wheels available. These will make it a lot more easy to navigate the terrain, because I got 3x3 wheels, 5x5, but more importantly suspension and headlights. At the same time, Stormworks has been changed, and this means that the normal electric propulsion just doesn't work as well as it used to. Let me spawn in my vehicle and show you exactly how that works. You can see that the engine does start as normal, and the battery does charge up. However, if I start driving, then immediately I start spending a whole lot of energy. In the previous video, this worked perfectly well because the engine was capable of regenerating fast, or the battery was capable of recharging fast thanks to that diesel engine. But that is just no longer true. So this vehicle is bound for an overhaul, because as it stands, it simply cannot function well. I'm going to have to turn this into an actual car which does not have diesel electric propulsion, and instead is going to have just a diesel engine and a generator to power its battery and its electrical systems. So that's going to require a bit of a workaround. Fortunately, I can keep most of what I have over here intact as is, but as for now, the electric parts are going to have to get moved out of the vehicle. What I have over here is the two batteries. Those can stay. I also have a whole bunch of gearboxes and generators, and those are going to get mounted off of the vehicle. I don't need those anymore because as it stands, and this is version 7.12, the electric systems just aren't what they used to be. Electric engines have been nerfed a lot, and with that, well, vehicles are not entirely inoperable, but they sure as hell aren't what they used to be. Now I can keep most of the gearbox setup the same, fortunately, because I can use these gearboxes to just drive the engine, or rather drive the vehicle. I'm going to keep one generator up here so that I can keep the battery fed. The other, this one over here, this gearbox is going to translate to the front wheels, and the second clutch over there is available to enable four-wheel drive. But for the moment I'm not going to go with that just yet. What I will need is a clutch, and unfortunately I don't really have a lot of room in here, so I'm going to go with two clutches. It's not ideal, but it does get the trick, or it does do the trick. Let's see, I need to make sure that this is set up. Power B, no, that should be power A. There you go. Okay, so now we have two clutches, one over here and one over there, and these are going to be driving the front wheels. I can also drive the rear wheels if I enable this clutch. And I do have a separate button for that. That's the enable four-wheel drive. It's sitting on the command seat. I'm also going to adjust the wheels to have suspensions on them, because we've seen what happens if you don't have those, and it just flips your vehicle. So I'm going to have to make some slight incisions in the vehicle here to allow for those suspensions, because they are a little longer than the wheels that we had previous. Okay, I can go with the 3x3 wheels, but they are rather small. So let's go with the 5x5s. Unfortunately, they stick out a little more. So I could go with a very wide vehicle, or I'm going to have to move my lamps or my spotlights up a little, and that's what I'm going to do. Just going to make sure that this arrow is pointing in the forward direction, otherwise I won't actually have forward propulsion. Same goes over here. Let's see, does this make it? Yeah, that makes the rear a little wider. I don't want that. So again, make some small incisions, go with the pipes. An angled pipe like that, like this, and like that. Then we get the wheel. 5x5 suspension. Gotta make sure those are in forward motion, and they are. Both are. The steering for these is not very important because I won't really be using those in any sort of steering capacity anyway. I considered it to be able to do very sharp steering maneuvers, but I don't think that I'm going to actually be using that. Now I can still cover up these wheelbases. Not as much as I would like to. And this only really fulfills an aesthetic purpose, but aside from that, doesn't do much for me. Same here. Yeah, I can do it like that. There you go. Okay, what I do need to add is one more clutch. And this clutch is going to have to sit somewhere in the vehicle where I can easily access it. Now currently, the vehicle's a little busy. There's a lot of stuff in here, and I don't really have a lot of spare room. So what I'm going to do is change this, what used to be a pilot seat, out for a normal seat. And with that, I get a little bit more room over here. Because if I go for a normal passenger seat, I suddenly get a bit more room that I can have over here. Now the lights that I have on here is the parking brake, the four-wheel drive, and the button that gives me the heater. And of course, this indicator light, which is, I think, the parking brake? No, it's the gear up feature. So this is increased gear. I'm going to move these two over to separate indicator lights. So let's set them up over here. And this is where I want my clutch, or rather my throttle. This is going to be activating the clutch, and these are going to be here to indicate what the status of the vehicle is. I think this was a green one. Let's call this the parking brake. And this one, indicator lights, goes active when this one's toggled. And this toggle also triggers the brakes on all the wheels. Okay, that's done. The other one was the four-wheel drive feature. Give that a slightly different paint additive, like that. This one only goes active when the four-wheel drive feature is on. Now that means that these clutches are enabled. So if this one, and that is triggered by number 2, gets toggled, then I want that to be on. So this is the four-wheel drive indicator on. And then finally we have another one, and that I can use for either gearing up or gearing down. At the moment I don't really have a purpose for it yet. Let's just stick with a standard button for now. Now, I don't really need my spotlights anymore because I unlocked the actual inbuilt spotlights. So the small spotlights. And I can have those on the vehicle itself. Or mounted inside the vehicle, if you will. They do not give off as much light as the other ones do. But overall, they do provide a decent bit of lighting. And they're not as big and bulky on the sides as the previous ones were. So I can sort of streamline the vehicle a little bit. I don't really need any bright spotlights on the sides. Maybe a couple on the top. Just to make my visibility a little better. You know, one of those lines of spotlights that you sometimes see on these vehicles. And these are going to get triggered separately. I had a spotlight button over here. There was this one. That goes to that spotlight and that spotlight. And I can now throw in an additional toggle button. And this is going to be for the top spotlights. So this one enables all these lights if you really want to light up an area properly. Now, everything that got renewed on this vehicle does need electricity, of course. Go to the clutch, go to these lights. Let's see, the generator is new, the other gearboxes are not new. This one goes here, the battery. connects to the heater? Not really. This battery's not connected to anything just yet. Let's connect those to the engine. I think that everything has power at this point. Now to get the color scheme right, an additive for these things. So that, let's see, where are you? Here, white, white, white. So this is spotlights, this is the standard lights, so let's say navigation lights if you will. And these are the top spotlights. Four-wheel drive, parking brake, and the clutch. And this one is important, because the clutch needs to go to the clutches that are currently oriented on the sides of the vehicle. I think they're just down here. Yep, this one and that one. And they allow power from the engine to actually go to the wheels. Now there is one change that I need to make to the gearboxes. And that is that I need a reverse switch now. This one's set on a 1 to, let's say 1 to 1, unless otherwise directed. Then it's going to go to a 1 to 3. This one is set to a 1 to 1 or a 1 to a -1. So if I enable this gearbox, it's going to go in reverse. So what I'll also need is a reverse button. And I can just make another indicator light for that. So this is an indicator for me that the reverse mode is active. Additive. Let's make that another green one. Of course, it's going to have to require power. And let's see, which buttons do I still have available on the command seat? I have increased gear, I have, and let's see, does that go to the right gearbox? Yes, it does. Or actually, no, that's the reverse gear. So this one does not need to go to that gearbox, but to that one. Then I have two that enables the parking brake. No, that enables the clutch switch. That's the four-wheel drive. Yeah, toggle four-wheel drive. Number 3 doesn't do anything. Number 3 doesn't do anything. Okay, so number 3 I can use for the reverse mode. And that means that I need to toggle this gearbox down here. And not just that. But I also want to toggle this indicator light. I think that covers just about everything. Now let's get the color scheme right. And one final change that I still want to make over here is to have a connector. So that if at some point I unlock helicopters, and if I will kind of inevitably crash this vehicle at some point, I can still lift it up. Just by sheer power of a helicopter with a connector. That connector is over there. So I'm going to have a toggle button up here. And just change the paint scheme on these. Make sure they get power. This toggle goes to that magnetic connector. Connect it up. Okay, so that is, let's say the pickup Mark II. Now, the objective that we have is to get the... What the hell? Ah, here. Clear the ice from the tracks. I still have 21 minutes to get there. And I still don't really have any way of using this vehicle to get the ice off of the tracks. So I'm going to have to make a sort of an ice... I'm not even sure what you'd call that. An ice scoop or an ice ram. To try and get the stuff off of the rail, off the tracks. Let's see, how would you normally do that? I think normally I could go with a battering ram like this. If I can flip these blocks around properly, that is. So something like that. Or have sort of a one-sided scoop that just directs it off to one side. Because without a maggle, I cannot really do anything else with it. Let's see. I've never actually built one of these, so this is going to be an interesting experiment. If I want to direct it off to the side, I would have to do it something like this. Unfortunately, I cannot quite adjust the angle as much as I would like, and this does make the vehicle really, really long. I just want to see if this thing actually drives when I try to do that. So you'd make this sort of ice scoop thing, where I can move into an ice shelf and just try to bulldozer it out of the way. But I think it's not quite going to work. So instead, let's go for something that slightly more resembles a battering ram. Except that it's not quite aligned in the middle. Now there is another option, and that is to go for something that can try to scoop up the ice, but I don't really know if I have the parts available to do that. I have a velocity pivot. This thing keeps turning until otherwise directed. If I were to set this up and do it like that, it would just keep spinning in either that direction or the other direction. But I don't think I need it to spin in that direction. I need to spin it in the other direction. Now it would be spinning... That's a bit too close to the vehicle. Let's see, if I spin it like this, it's going to start trying to direct stuff outside of the, out of the range of the vehicle. No idea if this is going to work. I think it'll collide with the vehicle at this point. Okay, let's just try this. I needed to get power. And just to make it easy currently, let's go for a throttle. Just mounted here on the side so I can test out whether this system will work or not. Get it some power. And this one's going to indicate how fast that one's going to spin. Let's see. Yeah, that's what I was worried of. It's going to try and collide with the vehicle or the floor. It's just a little too long on one side. Yeah, that's this side. So over this side it might work. Yeah, with this I can try and direct it out of the way. Just bulldozer it off to the side. Can I still drive with this though? Okay, the engine starts. Yeah, I still have the RPS sensor, or the automatic engine starter over here. I don't want that. I want a manual engine starter. So just a push button usually. Do I have PIDs available? No, just a standard PID. Crap. Can I give it a constant number? I can. I don't have switch boxes available either, so okay, I'm gonna have to go with a microcontroller for this. It's going to require a couple of logic nodes. It's going to require an on-off signal. It's going to require an output signal that tells me how much the throttle for the engine should be. and it's going to require a number input that indicates what the RPS of the current engine is. Let's make it a little longer, a little less wide. There. Now it's really, really basic. You don't actually need a microcontroller for this, but it's the only way that I can actually add a microcontroller to this vehicle. Now, I want the set point to be about, let's say 5. So it's going to be operating on an RPS of 5 or greater. So the set point is 5. That's the target. The RPS, the process variable, goes here. And the input, whether it's on or off, goes there. And then the output from the PID goes to the throttle. Proportional gain, I'm going to set this up to 0.5. Derivative gain, 0.5. These are usually my standard values for the engine. Or for the PID rather. Basic RPS controller. Basic RPS controller. There it is. And there's still some room in here. So let's put that over there. It's going to have to be a toggle button that indicates whether the engine is on or off. I'm not in mirror mode. Okay. So a toggle button. Oh, sorry, this is a toggle button. No, let's just make it red. This is start engine. And this toggle button goes to here. That's to enable the RPS, sorry, the RPS controller, so the PID. The throttle goes to the engine, and then the RPS feeds back into the microcontroller. So that's to control the engine controller. And yeah, I'm also going to have to go with a push button to actually start the engine. It's a bit of a workaround, and I'm not really happy with the way that this thing is currently set up. But I think that for now it is kind of the easiest way to go about it. Start engine, and this is the engine controller. Actually, I'm making this vehicle far too complex. Because what I need to do is just make sure that this microcontroller, or rather this PID, is always on. Because it's just a PID. So I don't need an on-off signal. That can make this thing smaller. If I go back into logic, I can give it a constant on. Actually, no, if I do that, then I cannot ever turn the engine off once it's started. Never mind. Never mind. Okay. This start signal is going to go to the engine. Give this thing power. And the ice scooper, dozer, if you will, I'm going to keep that on there. I might just use this bulldozer ram initially. It's a bit too... Whoops. Oh, that is... Right. I was trying to get that front part off, but I can't do that. Not without losing the swooper part. So somewhere in this vehicle, I'm going to have to set up another throttle. And that throttle is going to be there to indicate how fast that ice thing is going to move around. So there. Rotational speed. And this is the ice scoop, for lack of a better term. Alright, pickup Mark II. Spawn it in. Let's see if it goes. Okay, engine controller on. Engine starts up. Tries to keep it at 4.85. That works for me. This is my throttle levers. That's the clutch, which apparently is not getting any power yet. You always forget one. Let's see, is this whole engine or this whole power array not getting any power? I think that might be the problem. try that again. Because without a clutch, this thing is not going anywhere. There you go. Okay, engine controller, start the engine. Take the parking brake off. And we're moving, albeit slowly. Spotlights, that's the front lights. Standard lights. And now my massive array of lights. Okay, so that all works. Clutch off. Let's say I wanted to go in reverse. That is button 3. And now we're reversing. Again, I'm very, very careful with this vehicle because I don't want to spin it out of control just yet. That will do. Okay, one thing I forgot to set up is the steering, which is rather important on a car. This one goes directly to the steering, and this one goes to the inverter to steer the other wheel. Let's just see if that's set up properly now. Turning... Nope, they're reversed. Okay, so this one's supposed to go to that wheel, and this one's supposed to go to that wheel. Turn left, turn right. Okay. Does the ice scooper work? It does. Alright, that means we can go on a mission. Finally, because I don't have that much time left. I got 18 minutes to try and get rid of all the ice that's currently on the tracks. So let's enable this mission and get a move on, because I need to go over here. I need to approach that from 2 different angles. So let's get the spotlights on, get the lights on, get the engine controller on, parking brake off, start the engine, give it a bit of a clutch. You can see the PID is trying to give it more power. And we're off. Driving in the Arctic is such a pain. But at least with the suspension, this vehicle has far less flip tendencies. Or at least, I hope so. Okay, let's increase the gear. That should make it a little faster. No, it killed the engine. Shit. I guess that's because the RPS is too low. Alright, full clutch then. 2.6 kilometers to the target. I still have no idea how fast this vehicle is going because I still haven't unlocked those sensors yet. 2.4. Alright. Let's fast forward to the point where we actually get to the ice. Okay, we made it. We're about to arrive at the ice over here. Now the interesting bit starts. Because now I'm going to have to try and get this stuff off of the tracks. Go around the train. And then make sure that everything can actually move past these parts again. And this is not helping. I think I just crashed part of my vehicle. Just see, move a little in reverse. Stop. Can I just get out of the vehicle and do this manually? Jeez, that's giving off a lot of light. So I can see the ice. I can sort of walk into it. But how do I get it off the tracks? Because I got no way of doing that. This vehicle won't actually try and scoop it up. It can't do it. And there is no real way of getting it off the tracks here either. On top of everything, the train is still in the way. From the donk line. It's still spinning around. This ice shelf is movable. I have no idea how to get rid of this. Because it doesn't have any handles on it. Yeah, I think this is part where you would need additional parts to get this thing done. And currently I just don't have the parts to get this part of the mission completed. So my vehicle is now sort of moving this away. Let's give it a little more clutch. My engine just died, didn't it? Yeah, my engine just died. Don't let the clutch come up too fast or you'll kill the engine. See, it is trying to reverse, but it's not quite working out. What if I add the ice scooper? No, the ice is completely stuck underneath the vehicle. Okay, I'm guessing we're not going to be able to do this part of the mission. I simply cannot get this stuff off the tracks. Even if I wanted to, I just see no real way of getting rid of this ice. Definitely an interesting design experiment. You can see the ice scooper does try and get rid of it. But it cannot quite do it. I'm gonna have to, if I adjust this vehicle at some point, make sure that the engine sits at a higher RPS, because at the moment this thing just dies every 10 seconds. The ice scoop isn't big enough. No, I don't think this is going to work, guys. I think this is where the mission sort of ends for us. That's unfortunate, because it means that I might not get the full resource point, or the full research points off of this objective. And we're just going to be stranded here on the tracks with a bunch of ice. Unless I can just push it over here, but I rather doubt it. There is one last thing that I can try, and that's to see what exactly qualifies off the tracks. Because at some point, I think that this ice shelf is going to be registering as off of the, or outside of the mission grid. There you go, now it's outside the mission grid. So I just need to do that with all 4 parts of the ice, and I can still kind of game the mission that way. I have 7.5 minutes to do it with. No thanks to the vehicle. But if I can just kind of walk these ice parts away, I might actually complete the mission. Come on, kick it. Needs to go 105 meters that way. The magic of Stormworks. Sometimes stuff does not work as intended and you don't have the parts that you need. And officially the ice is still on the tracks. But if the game is not working with you, then you can also try to game the game. And that's what we're doing right here. We're playing ice football on the tracks. Or soccer, depending on where you're from. Come on, get rid of it. You can see this is actually a really light part. Considering I can move it away just by walking into it. Come on. A bit more. Just need to get rid of it. Oh, don't tell me you're getting stuck here now. You don't have that far to go. Come on. This is gonna take a while. Still 1 of 4. 2 of 4. Okay. 2 more to go. I don't know how far that mission box extends on the other side of that train. We're about to find out. Also, I really hope that I can get past that with my character and try to get this thing done. Yeah, jeez, that's a large piece of ice. Can I even push this with my character? I wonder. Apparently I can. Either this is some really light ice, or my character's extremely strong. Look at this. Holy crap. You could argue that I'm making the problem worse, not better. If I can game it like this and get those research points, then I can eventually get those helicopters going, because that is the whole objective of this campaign. And we're on episode 8, and I still haven't had a single helicopter airborne. Hell, I don't even have the research points for the helicopter yet. Now we're going to be coming up on the terminal at some point. And on the terminal I can probably bulldozer these things off of the side of the tracks. At least that's the plan. And that should count as having gotten rid of them. There! We got it. Jesus, 2 research points for all that work? Where are we? Oh, we're here. Okay. Oh, we're not coming up onto the terminal. We're coming up slightly past the terminal. Yeah, so there is going to be ice on these tracks, which is unfortunate for any trains who are trying to pass by here. But for me, it's not that much of a problem, since they will despawn automatically. And I don't have a train to begin with anyway. Now, I spent, I think, 3 episodes on getting this mission completed. First, I had to build a vehicle. Then I had to get the vehicle over to where I needed to go and get the train driver. And now we have to try and get the ice off the tracks. So I had to build the ice scooper for that. I had to research new parts. And all we get is 2 lousy research points and a little bit of cash. This is still one of my main struggles with the game. The way that it just does not reward you properly. I mean, I should be getting a lot more, I feel, for the amount of work that I did. And you're just not getting it. So for me, it's time to take this vehicle back to the workbase and see what other mission pops up next, and hope that it's going to be just simple transport from A to B mission. I mean, sure, I have one of those, but that mission is 100 kilometers down to the south. So maybe I'm going to have to just traverse all the way south, get a mission done over there, and then come back up to the north and do the missions over here. But I'll consider that and get back to you guys soon. For now, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon for more Stormworks.